Hi guys, no graphics, just a quick one from me. The video that you're seeing is a pre-recorded video since I am away on holiday. So if anything I say is out of date or things have happened that is reflective of a couple of days ago, that will be why. It is a pre-recorded video. I'm currently on the beach somewhere, probably getting sunburnt on the beach. I've not been away from this country for 4 years, so can't wait for that. It's been a long deserved break for me, but I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if there is anything I say that's out of date, do bear in mind that is the reason why. But can't wait to see you guys again soon. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hi guys, welcome back to Lex Alexas. Today we're going to carry on with our official predictions as we are now predicting the League 2 table. Now this is one I've got a minute bit of interest in. Obviously Colchester's in this league. That was pretty much the most local EFL club that I would dare to support if I had to. Honestly, it's a very competitive league this year. Lots of quality managers, especially in that division. So I could see this being a tough league to predict. And certainly there will be some things that I think sort of will match expectations. And certainly can throw some massive shocks in there. Absolutely. I think a lot of people would have predicted how well Walsall did, but then also similarly wouldn't have predicted them to fall away as much as they did as well. So naturally, I think we're going to get many shocks as we normally get with EFL seasons as a whole. So I can't wait to predict this. But as always, guys, make sure you leave your predictions in the comments down below as well. And I will be interested to hear if you agree or disagree with my thoughts too. The subscriber that's going to get the shout out today is Ratigan TV. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. If you subscribe to the channel, that could very well be your name next video. As always, guys, thank you so much for the terrific support. It really does massively help the growth of this channel. Subscribing will be amazing. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. If you can like the video as well, that'll be great. 25 likes will be amazing. And please also share the channel too. That also really helps. But without any further ado, let's start predicting my League 2 25-26 table. Okay guys, so we're going to start things off in alphabetical order by the looks of things based on how the tier list has done it. With Accrington Stanley, who are they? Well, they were a team that narrowly survived last season, finished 22nd, and they were pretty much in the relegation battle throughout last season. I don't see that changing. I've not seen personally enough that's going to suggest that they are going to be moving up the table substantially, but do I think they could survive? I think yes. I actually think there are two teams I'm a little bit more nervous of in comparison with Accrington. I actually think Accrington can move up a place, and I think they'll get 21st, so they will fall into this section of the tier list. So again, to reiterate, I am not seeing enough that they are going to hit the heights as they have done a couple of years ago, which was to gain promotion to League One, which feels like ages ago now. I still think that they'll find themselves in that position, but it will be it's not a massive improvement, but it will be a small step, you know, to try and get them back to the stages that they would want to get. So I am going for a very slight improvement with Accrington Stanley. Right, now Barnet. So they are one of the first two teams that got promoted from the National League. And what we have traditionally seen with National League teams is that they really do submit themselves and actually integrate into the league very, very quickly. Can't remember the exact year they went down. I think it was 2019 or could have even been 2020 when they went down. That might have been the COVID year where they actually got relegated from League 2. So they spent a good couple of years in the National League having to try and build their squad up to get back to the EFL. They have done so with over 100 points accrued as well. So it is pretty much giving me all the indications that Barnet are looking like a team ready to attack the EFL. Do I think they can make it to a playoff push? I think that's a bit too far, to be honest, but I could see them doing a bit similarly to like what Bromley did last year. Pick up some good results along the way and finish in around a mid-table position. So I see them finishing here in this tier, probably, if I were to put a place, 11th, 12th, around there. 11th probably I'll go for. So just creeping in to the top half. And I'm sure Barnet fans would take that. That's a really good position to find themselves. And I think it gives them a really good bit of excitement to attack in subsequent seasons. It's good to see Barnet back in the EFL. And I hope we do see them for a good couple of seasons. Barrow next. So Barrow are going to be probably up there for one of the most northwestern clubs since Carlisle have been relegated from last season. One thing that concerns me with Barrow, which is a stat that I did figure out, is that their away form has been pretty horrendous. It took them a while to actually get many points on the road at all. And when I know a team that's struggling on the road, a lot of the time that will draw down to an over-reliance of their home form. But personally, Barrow have actually been okay since they've been promoted from the National League, I think 3 seasons ago or 4 seasons ago now, I think. And it was only last season where I think cracks were starting to show. They weren't entirely great. I mean, they finished 16th, so pretty meaningless position. To me, I actually see them going down one way, and that is with a negative trajectory. And I actually think they could finish one place below Accrington Stanley. Personally, for me, as of right now, they are the team who I think are on the cusp of falling into the bottom 2, but not quite doing so. So maybe a little bit harsh for Barrow's point of view, but I do think if you are on a negative trajectory, it's very hard to get out of it unless you make significant signings, which at this moment in time, I don't think they have. So I'm going to put them down there. Maybe quite ludicrous on my part, but let me know what you think in the comments. Right, so one of the first recently relegated League One teams, Bristol Rovers. Not many predicted them to go down last season, and their form in the second half of the season is really what killed it. They've got Darryl Clark, who did manage Bristol Rovers before. I believe 2016 or 15 he managed them, and he got them promoted from League 2 in 3rd place. And I think history can repeat itself, and I think he will get them up again. I think the squad they have is clearly shown that they can perform and has got some talent there. I think it's just making sure the mix between the current corporate players and the manager works. And clearly with Darryl Clark working in Bristol Rovers before, he'll have a good rapport. And I think with everything combined, I think they'll do, they'll at least be flirting with the idea of finishing playoffs and promotion. And I actually think they'll be on a good end of the stick. And I think they will get 3rd place. Yeah, so for me, they're 3rd. I put them in 1st to 3rd, but I think they'll finish 3rd. I think there's 2 teams that are the outright favourites at the moment. And I can see Bristol Rovers being the one entering into the conversation. I do like Darryl Clark with what he's done with getting 2 promotions at this level before. So the fact that Bristol Rovers have got that, they really want to get back up into League One, and I don't blame them. Bromley are next. What an amazing season Bromley had. I mean, their first ever EFL season, and they finished top half, 11th place. Unbelievable. So essentially, I'm almost matching their form with what I've done for Barnet this time. For me, I think it's more likely they are going to go down rather than going up the table, unfortunately. Now, Michael Cheek, the top goal scorer League 2 last season, he is so vital. If he goes off for a transfer, then I'm not too sure who can step up from that Bromley side and can replicate the amount of goals he has done. And he also needs to try and get free of injury. That's not a guarantee either. And I think this over-reliance could come back to bite them. And I don't think there's going to be that shock value anymore that Bromley had going up. Sometimes when you do go up, some teams do not really know what to expect. Now it's a second full season. I think people will now start to figure out what to do against Bromley ever so slightly. I can easily see them this season actually being in a relegation battle, but I do not see them going down. I think they'll do better than Accrington Stanley, for instance, but as a position goes, probably 19th, I would say. So good couple of places above the relegation zone. I do think there'll be a team between Bromley and Accrington Stanley, which I'll be predicting later. But yeah, I think for me, Bromley will have a pretty significant drop. But if they do have 2 consecutive seasons in League 2, I think that will help them quite significantly and financially too. Cambridge United are next. So Cambridge had a good couple of seasons in League 1, and I've got to be honest, I actually think they survived in League 1 a lot longer than actually what I expected in the end. They went down, and Neil Harris came in, and I actually think he did give it a really, really good go. There was some promising signs going on with Cambridge, but it was one of those situations where he just came into the job too late, and there was just too much for him to do in a short space of time. Now he will have a full season with Cambridge. He can have a good opportunity to tinker around with the squad and to make it his. And personally for me, I see Cambridge not getting promotion, but I think they'll get playoffs. Probably right in the middle, 5th place I could see Cambridge getting. So with the manager, and I think with the crop of players that they currently got, I think they can get around a playoff place personally. Let me know what you think in the comments. Cheltenham. So Cheltenham last year, they finished 1 place above Barrow, 15th. I don't think I've got them to finish too dissimilar. I think they'll be right at the top of the relegation battle. They may be having some doubts, with relegation right at the start. But like what Cheltenham typically do, if they do flirt with it, they just pull off an epic run together and they just get themselves enough breathing space from the conversation. And I could easily see that being the case. So it's a couple of places down, 15th to 17th. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be too much sweat occurring for Cheltenham going into this season. Meanwhile, Chesterfield, they have been backed as one of the favourites to go up, and I can understand, and I am going to put them in not first but second. I think they are my second place team at this moment. I am a big fan of Paul Cook. I know the expectations were for Chesterfield to go up last season. They didn't. They finished 7th, I think they did in the end. So scraped a playoff place, but ultimately lost out to Walsall in the playoff semi-final. I think they were quite disappointing in those playoff games. Certainly with that heartbreak and that, determination to try and hit back, I think that will help them as well. And again, it's just down to the manager. I just think with the experience, I think he will work his magic to take Chesterfield up to League 1 and to take them back to League 1. It's been a long while since Chesterfield have been back in League 1, so it'll be good to see them there again. Colchester, I'm quite nervous about this one. So Colchester had, I gotta say, last season was a positive season for Colchester. Considering the last 2-3 seasons, Colchester have been finishing in the bottom 6. 10th place was unprecedented. The Cowley brothers came in and really improved things. I was so shocked to see the turnaround of form. I, have backed the Cowleys. I've been big fans of them since, what they've did in the short spell that they did in Huddersfield. But this is a different kettle of fish to kind of really turn a team around who should be doing better, but just haven't been. But I think now with a full season, they can make some real damage. And I think the form books will tell you that they did have a form of a playoff team for pretty much the entirety of the Cowleys joining. And I think what that will do, that will improve Colchester some places, and I think they will get the last playoff place. I thought they were quite unlucky to miss out. It was a really, really competitive playoff race last year. I think they can improve with what they've got available. And personally, I just sense there's a bit of positive momentum going around with Colchester at this moment. So I think they will make it to the playoffs. And that will be unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I think the last time Colchester were in the playoffs, I think they had to play Exeter. So it's been a long while ago since Colchester have been involved in that sort of conversation. Let me know what you think. Crawley Town. Okay, so Crawley have Scott Lindsay as their manager. He is obviously the one that took them out of League 2 to get them into League 1. He then got dismissed. And Crawley's season last year was messy. And Scott Lindsay ended up returning to Crawley. And actually, since he did return, that was when Crawley looked more likely that they were going to survive. They did pull a mini run of form together. But ultimately, again, likewise with most of the bottom 4 for League 1 last year, they were just given too much to do. And Burton were relentless, just keeping on with the pace of the 1 point per game and just making it so difficult for those sides. For me, this is going to be an interesting one. I sense Crawley being in a position where I think they'll be flirting with playoffs, but I think they won't make it, unfortunately. I think they'll finish 9th place. So a couple of places below, just not so sure they're going to have the same motivation as they previously had as well. Honestly, this section of the table, there's loads of the places are interchangeable, but I just have a sneaky feeling with Crawley, I think they'll just miss out. So we're now going for Crewe Alexandra. So where did Crewe finish last season? They finished in 13th. I don't see their position mildly changing. I think it just feels to me another mid-table affair for Crewe. They've sort of kind of solidified themselves as a capable League 2 team. They've only had the odd nervous disposition of their league status, but I think recently they have certainly secured themselves as a competent League 2 club, and I just see that being the case again. Fleetwood. So Fleetwood last year finished 14th, literally one place below Crewe, and I see Fleetwood being maybe a couple of places above Crewe this time, but I think again this is going to be a mid-table position. I'd say lower for Barnet, but above Crewe, so 14th or 13th around that position. Fleetwood go through pigs and troughs of form. Now, obviously, they did suffer their first relegation to League 2. I don't know if it was last season or the season before. So now what they are going to hope to do is to reduce the rot and to prevent another relegation going down into the National League. And personally, I think that the squad they've got available, I think it's experienced enough. I think it's got the quality they will require to get in a comfortable position. I just don't see them setting League 2 alight. One team that could set League 2 alight is Gillingham. So this is going to be their second consecutive season in League 2 after being relegated 2 seasons ago. And it was underwhelming. It was an underwhelming League 2 campaign when they did go down. And yeah, it ended up with him getting Gareth Ainsworth for the final 9 games of the season, and he picked up 3 wins of those 9 games, so not amazing, but I could see Gareth Ainsworth doing a good job here. I see Gillingham being in a very similar position to Colchester, but of course, I'm predicting Colchester to be my 7th place team, so I think Gillingham are going to be the team that misses out here. But honestly, Colchester and Gillingham are very interchangeable. I'm a big fan of Gareth Ainsworth, and I know he hasn't had too much success with QPR. Shrewsbury wasn't great either. I think certainly his peak in his managerial career is still going to be Wickham. But as a League 2 boss, I should expect Gareth Ainsworth to do a job on them. So I think they'll be around 8th. I think they will be fighting for getting promotion via playoffs, but I just think that region of the table has been really competitive. It's barely filled in the moment, but we've got some quality teams that we're going to talk about very soon. Let's now go for Grimsby. Now, Grimsby had a pretty good season last time around. They finished 9th, which is a brilliant achievement for Grimsby. Unfortunately for me, I think they will fall down the table a bit, but I don't think it will be too drastically. I see them being the sandwich in between Fleetwood and Crewe, which would put them around 14th place in the table. So yeah, mini drop off. For me, when you have a team punching above their weight for 1 season, it is very unlikely that they do that for 2 seasons. And Grimsby has been a club where they've been skirting around the lower 8 teams in the table. Last season was a bit of an anomaly in that point of view, and it feels more likely to me that they will re-enter that sort of form again, but I don't think they're going to have fears of relegation per se. We're now moving on to Harrogate. Okay, Harrogate, this is going to be interesting. Simon Weaver, their manager, the longest serving manager in the whole EFL. 2009. Unbelievable. I was still in school by the time he was managing Harrogate. Well, I say still in school, that's not a surprise. So Harrogate have been a team where they've been able to make do within the last, or the bottom 8 of the table. They haven't been able to really hit the heights since they got promoted. I think they may have got promoted with Barrow, I think, if I remember right. So I sense Harrogate being in the lower part of this table again, but I'm predicting Barrow to survive, but I think it will be between those two for one for relegation places. And personally for me, I think Harrogate could go down here. I think they'll finish 23rd. They lost, I think, their top goal scorer last season as well from a transfer. So goals could be an issue for Harrogate. And personally, I just don't see them improving on their league position so well. And they've been flirting in those lower positions of the table. So unfortunately, just with a couple of factors, I think they will be, unfortunately, my first team I relegate. But going from bottom to top, we're going to talk about MK Dons, and they are the favourites. They are the favourites to go up. They have got a manager in Paul Warne, who is a promotion specialist in League One. He is managing a League 2 team right now. Obviously, there could be so much pressure with MK Dons being the favourites. We've got Mendes Langen, who I think is a quality signing for a League 2 club as well. I just see MK Dons really flexing their financial muscle here, and I think that is going to help them get promoted finally back to League One after a couple of seasons absence. So that is my top three: MK Dons, Chesterfield and Bristol Rovers. So next we go for Newport, and we're really jumping up and down the table because unfortunately for me, Newport are the team I'm most worried about going into the next season. They conceded 76 goals last year. I've not seen enough transfer business to suggest that that's going to change. Yeah, they were quite... I'm not going to say they were quite lucky to survive, but they were really, really dangerous only looking across their relegation picture last year. And unfortunately, I just see more of the same. And if they've not dealt with their goal problems, it will only happen in one thing, and that will be relegation. And that'll be a shame because I remember Newport narrowly avoiding relegation. I think it was Hartlepool that actually took their place in the end, and the passion and just the unbelievable sense of relief from Newport, I was hoping that could project them into great things, and it nearly got them, into League One territory, made it to a playoff final not long ago, but it goes to show within a couple of years, your fortunes can change, and personally for me, they are the favourites to be getting relegated, unfortunately. So let me know what you think of my bottom two in the comments below. Now we have Notts County. Notts County made the playoffs last year. However, they had a striker in David McGoldrick who chipped in with some goals. He is no longer playing for Notts County. He's moved up to Barnsley. And I think that could be an issue. I think with a sudden deficit in goals, it does lead you to believe that they will drop down a couple of places. They finished, I think it was 6th place in the end. I think they'll finish top 10 still, but personally I think Notts County will finish just outside of the playoffs, sadly. So the second team who got promoted via the National League is Oldham. Oldham also got relegated not too long ago. In fact, I think got relegated a little bit more recently from what Barnet were. They had to go through a dramatic playoff final game against Southend, who I really wanted both to go up. I think I probably would have preferred Southend with them being an Essex club. But Oldham, of course, are one of the founding members of the Premier League. We cannot forget that. So it is absolutely right that they are back in League 2. And certainly, I think they should be hoping to look at if they can move up the divisions at all, because I remember them more as a League 1 club than a League 2 club. Mickey Mellon's a very reliable manager, so I think he will at least get them to survive. I think they will finish 18th, around that region of the table. So I'd say bottom 6 still. I don't think they're going to necessarily attack the league, but they've certainly got the managerial experience and the squad in front of them to do enough, I think, to survive. I just don't think they're going to necessarily set the league alight in the level that I think Barnet could, if that makes sense. So I'm going for I think, 20th maybe? I don't know. I'm going to change my mind, actually. I'm going to move Oldham below Bromley. I'm going to go 20th, actually. I think Bromley might just be slightly ahead, but yeah, it's very close between those two. But I'm going to compromise. I'm going to put Oldham below Bromley here. Now put them in 20th, one place above 21st, Accrington Stanley. Salford, so you can probably see with the positions we've got left to fill, we have 2 playoff teams still to fill. Salford, for me, I think should get in. I think they'll actually sandwich perfectly in between Colchester and Cambridge. I'm a big fan of Carl Robinson. I liked what he did with Oxford, and I definitely liked his involvement there with other teams too. Good manager, and I certainly think there's a good unity around with the squad at the moment. Quite a young squad, but I can see that actually only being more of an advantage than a disadvantage personally. I am a big fan of what they're doing, and Salford have been a team flirting with the idea of getting, into the playoffs. I think this year could be their really good chance of getting in. Shrewsbury now. So Shrewsbury are the last team who've been recently relegated from League One. They were rock bottom and pretty much were rock bottom for the entire season. It wasn't great viewing at all. Gareth Ainsworth just couldn't get enough out of them to improve their form. And in the end of it, Shrewsbury now find themselves with Michael Appleton as their manager. Liked him at Lincoln, and I think it was Oxford he managed as well, did all right there. Wasn't too much of a fan of what he did with Blackpool, if I got to be honest. So that is sort of the stint I'm drawing towards with him. And it leaves Shrewsbury in a position where I don't think they're going to have any trouble per se. But I don't see them finishing anything above mid-table, unfortunately. I actually think Barnet could finish above them too. So you got 8th, 9th, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I'd say 12 is about right for Shrewsbury Town. So I think they will be the most effective of the recent relegated clubs. So I'm going to go for 12th place for Shrewsbury. Okay, 3 teams left. Swindon Town. Big fan of their manager, Ian Holloway. Absolute box office there. I think they can get playoffs actually. So I'm actually going to go for them actually being the best performing out of the playoff teams. Momentum was very positive for when I saw him join Swindon, and I think with a full season under his belt with them, I think they will be electric to watch. So I see Swindon improving quite substantially because they did not even really make it to the playoffs at all. I think it was 12th they finished in the end, but give Ian Holloway a full season, I actually think they will improve quite substantially. And Swindon, have been the team that have been in League One, and actually I think were they a Premier League club one time as well? I can't remember if they were or not, but they were certainly a Championship club one time. Tranmere and Walsall left. So Tranmere were flirting with relegation for a lot last year. I think it will be a similar affair, but I think they could improve by a couple of places. They had positive momentum pretty much since Nigel Atkins left, so I think they will finish around 18th. We finally go to Walsall, which I think is going to be very opinionated in terms of where Walsall finished. They had an unbelievable season for about 60% of it. They were leading the way, huge points advantage. They bottled it, and they didn't even get promotion on the last day. They had to go through the playoffs, and they lost out in the playoff final, unbelievably. So, absolutely brutal. It was AFC Wimbledon that got up instead of Walsall, and I think that devastation will hit them hard. And actually, I think it's only mid-table left, but I think they'll be around the lower end of that mid-table. So 16th, I could honestly see them finishing that low. I've mentioned it before with Grimsby, and I'm kind of associating this again. Grimsby and Walsall teams have been finishing near the bottom part of the League Two. They've had great seasons beyond their usual expectations, and I think once you have that and you don't really quite get what you want out of it, I think naturally you're going to feel dejected, and it will result in downwards momentum. So I'm going to put Walsall down in 16, maybe a little bit brutal by my part, considering they were one game away of being a League One club, but that's how I personally see the table. So guys, this is my table in terms of League Two. So my top 3, I'm going for MK Dons, Chesterfield and Bristol Rovers. In terms of teams to win the playoffs, I'm going to say Cambridge would be the team that goes up by the playoffs. So that means 2 of the recently relegated teams go immediately back up at the first time of asking. Chesterfield and MK Dons make a return to League One. And it means for relegation, Harrogate will make a return to the National League after a couple of seasons up in League Two. And Newport will make a return too. So guys, that wraps it up. As always, guys, you know, it's not completely serious. I'm really just making a guess for a lot of these clubs. I will be interested to hear your predictions though in the comments down below. But if you guys enjoyed, please smash the like button. It really does help. Please do hit the subscribe button too, and please share the channel too. All of that is free and it really helps. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for joining in this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.